Hello everyone, another hard problem. We are solving data stream as disjoint intervals today. Okay. Signature. So given a data stream, by the way, I have never seen or solved this problem. Let's now go into that. Data stream input of non-negative integers a1 to an summarize the numbers seen so far as a list of disjoint intervals. Okay, implement summary ranges class. So there is summary ranges initializes the object with an empty stream. Void add num int value, okay, adds the integer value to the stream. Integer get intervals returns a summary of the integers if the stream currently has a list of disjoint intervals. The answer should be sorted by start I as a list of disjoint intervals. Do I understand correctly that disjoint interval is something like 1, 2, 3, then 5, 6 would be two disjoint intervals, and we can be returning, in this case, we will be returning something like 1, 3, and 5, 6. So I understand disjoint interval this way. Let me check. So we are adding 1, 3, 7, 2, 6. And yeah, when we're adding 6, 7, and 1, 3, yeah, actually it's pretty close to the example that I've given. Cool. So we do add num of 1, add num of 3, and in this case, if we do get intervals, so we don't return anything here, but here we will be returning 1 and 3, and these need to be sorted by the start of the interval. Sounds good. And then we add something like add num 2, and we will be returning 1, 3. Okay, I should probably do it in a more consistent manner. I think I understand the problem. Before we go deeper into that, let's also say that we, as a corner case, we try to get intervals before we have added any numbers. It's that. And then another thing that I should mention explicitly is that we can only add elements to these intervals, which is good. Also, it's unclear whether the same number can be added several times. So let's say that we do this, and it would be kind of an idempotent update. Good. Let's now think about the solution for this problem. So there is a brute force solution here, or maybe not such a brutish solution. So keep a sorted list on each call to get intervals, iterate over it to create the intervals. So this is a relatively simple solution. So add num will be working in of log n. Let's say that n equals total elements added, maybe unique elements added. Yeah, I probably should also process this. I will assume, let me assume that cannot do only unique elements. Yes, let me check the problem. So the issue is that it's very easy to check if the element is unique or not, because overall the space will still be of n, and we can just call it, have a set with all our elements added so far, and there we can track like any new elements. If we are adding it, we can just check if it's already there and then don't do anything in such scenario. But let's check at most follow up. Yeah, there is nothing about the unique elements. So let's assume that in the tests we will have cases when the problem when the elements are non-unique. So we will need to process that. Always start with checking against a set of added elements. Okay, now keep a sorted list. Add num will be happening in O of log n time, and get intervals will work in O of n time with often space. This solution is relatively easy to implement, but it's inefficient. So what we'd like to do? We would probably like to keep track of starts, and then for each start know an end. Start end and start end dictionary, and then if we can do in ordered dict. Yeah. So what I'm thinking right now, keep starts set, keep and ends set. Always add a new number as an interval on its own, and then do a merge step. So if we have starts and ends, then when we add a new interval, we can then do a merge operation. So the merge operation will be, we are checking if there is end that is one smaller than the current new element, and if it is the case, we merge those two intervals. So basically we update the start point to this end now, and we remove this current start from this interval and the corresponding end of this interval. Once we do that, we now have a new end, and we check if it's one smaller, or there is also a scenario then there is a no end that is one smaller than the current new interval that we have added. So then it's an interval on its own, and then we check if there is a start one starting element that is new element plus one, basically. And then we can merge those two elements, and then we can point from this start to the end of this element, this interval, and we remove this this array that is on the right, the array that we're merging. We just remove that. So all of those operations will be of 1. So merge in of 1, adding new start in of log starts. Why is that? Because we are doing an order dict, and order dict will put our element in the correct order, but that would require iterating over all possible starts and putting it in the correct place. So we also need to keep track of like all ends and pointing to the starts, so that we can find the right interval, and then all starts pointing to the ends in this order dict. And this means that we'll have two dictionaries. So adding new start will be of log n starts. So adding new element in of log n starts. Then the merges happen in of 1, and then the iteration get intervals will work in of starts, which can be of n, but it can also be of stars, which is a smaller number, significantly smaller number than of n. Okay, this sounds like a solution. I don't see if there are any blockers there right now. So let me try to implement this and see if it works. So for init, we do self starts, and it will be ordered dict. And we do self ends, which will just a dict. And then we also do self elements, which will be a set. So add number, if value in self elements return. We don't do anything in this case. Otherwise, let's also create def merge try merge and start. Okay, so end will be an integer and start will also be an integer, and it returns none. And if possible, merges intervals start and start. Okay, so this will be the function that we'll try to implement, and now it will either merge Otherwise, it will just leave those two elements. Okay, so let's see. Now, if value and self elements return. So now we know that the value that we are adding was never seen before. So what we are doing self starts of value equals value, and self ends of value equals value. So we are just creating an interval like here, for example, where we are just pointing to itself. Start is pointing to the end of itself, and then it's pointing to the start of itself. Now we do self try merge, and we do value -1 as the end value. And then we also do try merge self value and value +1. And that's it for the addNum function. For the getIntervals function, we do return key and self starts key for key in self starts. So this will be ordered, and then we will be outputting all of those elements. This sounds like what we want to do. Now, the only thing that we have to implement is this try merge. So now we have two intervals, and we need to check if it's possible to merge those. And if it's possible, we need to remove one of those intervals. And let's just decide always removes the right interval. Let me add it as a comment here, probably. So when merging. Now let's see. So first of all, we are checking if and in ends and start in starts. Self ends, start and self starts. I was thinking whether we can face a situation where, for example, here, right, we just have interval 1, 3. What if we are adding 2? But the only way to get this interval is by adding 2 sometime before, right? For example, here. So if we are adding 2 again, it's already in our set of elements. So we are never adding it twice. So we can never get in a situation where we are somewhere in the middle of the already existing interval that is not close to starts or ends. Okay, so if end and self ends and starts and self starts, then it means that we can merge those two intervals. So first of all, new end will be equal self starts start, and now we delete self ends new end, and we have removed this interval. Now we are also removing def, deleting self start, or we don't need to delete, we just can update it. So, and it will be faster because otherwise we would need to do it in of log n, log starts, but now we can do it by updating just an of 1. So self starts start will be equal to new end, and then self ends. Oh, actually, we also don't need to delete this, right? We also are updating it in place. Do we need to delete anything? Let's check. We do need to delete. Yeah, we will have to. Oh, but we are only doing try merge inside of the addNum, and addNum either way is log of starts, so we can do an operation on log of starts and it will be still same runtime. So we do need to remove the interval. Let's now just see how to do it. So first of all, self ends new end. New start self ends end. Okay. So self ends new end will be equal to new start. So now we have updated this. But now we need to remove the interval. Let me just follow here. So let's say we have an interval of 1, 3, and we have an interval of 4, 5. So the input to this function will be 3, 4. And then we want to merge these two intervals, okay? So new end will be self starts of start. So this will be start. So the 5 will be the new end, which is correct. And then here, obviously, it will be 1, the new start. So self start will be new end. So this interval now points to this as the new end. So we are updating it in place, 5. And we are updating the ends so that there is also this. The problem is that we are still keeping the starts. Yeah, we now need to remove this start and this end that we have started with. So delete self starts of start and delete self ends of end. So it's not a correct representation of what is exactly happening. We are updating ends for one interval, we are updating starts for another interval, and then we are just removing the intervals inside. So it's like, instead should look like starts. There are 1, 3, and there is 4, 5. And then there are ends, and ends are 3, 1, and 5, 4. So instead of these 4, by the end of this iteration, we will have just 2, because there will be 2 intervals. Now there will be just 1. So here we're updating this start. Self starts is pointing start of start will be pointing to new end, which will be pointing to 5 now. And then this 5 will be pointing to 1. And then we need to remove starts of start. This one we remove, and then we remove self ends end. So, and then we are left with just this interval. Yep, this looks correct. Okay, so try merge works based on the on the logic that we have tried. Now we are trying it both ways, so at most there will be here, yeah, of log of start separations in total in ednum. Looks like it's working. Oh, let me maybe check in this scenario, assuming that try merge works. So let's say we have 1, 3. So the elements is 1 and 3, and the starts is 1, 1, and 3, 3, and ends is the same thing as starts. So now add num. We are adding 2, let's say, and it's not in values, so we add another one, which is 2, 2, and here 2, 2, and then we try merging, and try merge first value -1, so we are adding 2 and we are trying to merge these two arrays, and then we have already checked that it works, so it will create 1, 2 and 2, 1, and remove these 2, 2 and 1, 1 pointers. And now we try merge between 2 and 3, and as we already checked, it will create 1, 3 and 3, 1. Okay, it sounds like it works. Let's check. Oops. Takes, oh yeah, obviously I have, as usual, forgotten self. No, this is wrong. Okay. One, 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 seven. Okay, looks like I'm making mistakes. So expected. Oh yeah, I have created this. I'm not doing what I said I was doing. So I'm not updating the start, I'm updating new start to new end. I think that's the only bug. Yeah. Ooh, wrong answer. Oh, order dig doesn't return things in the right order, does it? And that's not the only issue. We also have, yeah, I thought that, okay, so instead of using order dict, I think order dict then just ensures that we are storing elements in the same order that we are adding the elements. But instead of this, we should be using sorted containing sorted dict. So yeah, this doesn't change the implementation. It was just the assumption about API, but then we still have this issue that here we are doing things incorrectly. Let's at least check that with this new test case, things are working better. Okay, yep. So things are working better, but now when we are adding element, I'm guessing here, it should be 6 to 8. 6, 8, yes. And then it's 6, 6. I guess I have another error in my reasoning here. I don't see an obvious mistake anymore, so it seems like the problem is in logic, not in something else. So let's see. So we have already added 0468. So we have added 6 twice, 0468 we have added, and now we are adding 7. And it should be 6 to 8, but we are dropping 8 altogether. Yeah, and in this scenario, when we are merging, when we are adding 2, it merges 1, 2, 3 correctly. And in this scenario, when we have 6, 7, 8, and we are adding 7, it merges it incorrectly. This is so strange. Oh, interesting. So then we are adding 7 again, and it updates this to 7, even though it should have done nothing because the 7 is already in there. What's going on? If value and self elements. Oh, can it be this? Yes, this is kind of stupid. I'm never adding value to self elements. So self elements. Yeah, that's the scenario. I am adding the value. I'm just, since 7 was added before, I'm not doing the merges when I'm adding 7 for the second time. Self elements add value. That was 2 very stupid mistakes, but let's at least hope that now it works fully. Oh, nice. Okay. So I don't know if that's not the optimal solution, or it is. Let me just maybe check. We still have, yeah, it's just 34 minutes. So add num value. Yeah, so here the only change in the implementation is that we are doing sorting when we return intervals, and we don't use the sorted dict. So this is a good good idea, good mention, because I should have explicitly mentioned that I'm making a trade-off here, because if we're adding nums more often than we are getting intervals, then we probably should move this here, and it will be of n log n time, but here it will be of 1 time. But that's pretty easy. You can just change this to sorted dict, and here sort this list from sorted to a normal dict. And this would work. Yeah, this is a good thing to think about, that I have made this trade-off, but I haven't made it explicit because I try to be clever, and maybe this is a bad way to be clever here. Okay, but that's it for today. Thank you everyone for watching.